Hi there, I'm Ian Nee Lewis.
And I'm Dan Galpin, and once again, we are here with another Friday Games Review. This is, again, a selection from your choices from the moderator page. This is the top 5 nominated games for us to look at this week. With us is also Alex over here, who is acting as producer, and he's also going to be helping us with the reviews.
Absolutely. Here, let's scooch over.
That's a good idea. So, no,
Okay.
Ian, what are we drinking today?
Well, yeah, a lot of people were asking me, are you still going to drink because you're having it, this show is so much later.
Exactly.
And I'm like, dude, lunchtime.
Absolutely, this is even better.
But I will say this, I pulled what we call in our team pulling a Galpin. Last night, I was up all night doing something that wasn't actually all that useful. It was actually making that intro video that you just saw.
But isn't that intro video awesome?
I love it.
It is certainly worthy of my namesake.
Absolutely.
So I'm totally pleased to be associated.
Because Dan will
in
do
any
this.
way.
He'll be like, God, I was up 14 hours straight last night, and I made this, model of the Great Wall of China from my dental fillings.
That was an amazing model.
Exactly.
I mean,
so the upshot is we're both tired because
Yes.
I pulled a Galpin. He is a Galpin.
Exactly.
But we're not going to let that stop us. It's noon, and that means a lunchtime beer. But I will say this. Because I pulled a Galpin, I was unable to pull a Nee Lewis, and stop by some awesome liquor store for beer, so I had to pull what's in the fridge. Fortunately, we had a pretty good selection. From what I consider my adopted hometown of Redmond, Washington, we have Red Hook ESB. Great brewery. We've both been there. Not at the same time, although we did eat at the herb farm right next door. They have a wonderful patio, and you just sit out there next to the brewery, eat some brats, drink some ESB, and life is good.
That's what we need to bring, actually, is some broths onto the show to go with the beer, and that would just make the show that much better.
That's right, brat. So we're drinking ESB. Now, I brought a Pilsner for Daniel Pham, our engineer, just in case. But I have something super special for...
Ooh.
There you go.
Hey.
Hey. Nice. I have something super special for producer Alex.
Oh.
Because Alex didn't get to go to Mobile World Congress this year. So I brought him back a taste of Barcelona.
Absolutely.
That's right. Estrella Damm.
Damn.
The Damm stands for damn. Estrella again? Seriously? You guys don't serve anything else in this town?
Pretty much.
Alrighty, let's take a look.
It's that and Dos Equis, right?
That's right. Okay, well now we've wasted a lot of time and the haters are going to hate on us, so let's get right to it.
All right, so the first game we're going to look at, and we have our exciting intro graphics here, and you actually hit it one more.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. And
Hola.
that one. There we are.
There we go. Okay, all right.
All right. So the first game we're going to be looking at is Agent Shooter, and actually go to the next slide so we can take a look at Agent Shooter's. There we are. So Agent Shooter lets you know from the beginning that it's ad supported, just in case you were wondering whether or not it was free or paid or not. It's right there in the title.
It also lets you know quite clearly from the feature graphic that this is done by like one dude who has GIMP.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who's learned how to use the filters in either Photoshop or GIMP, but it certainly looks like GIMP to me.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's actually quite a lot of fun to play, I think.
It really is. I felt like this is just the kind of game that Android needed. It's a shooter game. I mean, it's basically like a
gallery game.
Yeah, it's a shooting gallery like Area 51 or something, right? You're just going through, and the multi-touch makes it really cool because you can actually multi-touch different targets, which is completely unrealistic.
I think I have just 5 guns in my hand. Actually, is what I look at it.
That makes sense. One for each finger.
I'm a shooting alien. Is what
Your
I am.
fist has 5 guns.
That's right. Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. That's a Galpin. So we have here the title screen of Agent Shooter, and there's really not much to say about this other than, my God, there's a lot of stuff on here, and
where's the images? Are we waiting for the images to load?
It felt like that. I actually sat here looking at it for about 2 seconds, thinking, this is it. Okay, well, there you go. But that being said, you can get right into the game here, and And you see I've unlocked episode 1, which shows you how much I've actually managed to play on this tablet. But let's go start this. And again, the game itself is really, it's not really designed for a tablet, let's just be honest here, in terms of graphical fidelity. But as I said, it's actually fun to play, and I usually play with two fingers, which actually is almost like being two guns. It's somewhat realistic, and other than I could never shoot this well.
I actually feel like the graphics on here totally remind me of Area 51. This is like that, state of the art for arcade machines in the late '90s sort of graphics.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is actually really fun. I'll definitely give it a lot. You can see that you got the accelerometer going. You've got the ad at the bottom. It's all pretty unobtrusive. Now it's on a tablet. Obviously, that ad is really, really small. So it's really, really nice. And you get a new high score. It asks you your name all the time.
Fair enough. Now, one thing that I noticed immediately about this game is that they do allow you to shoot multiple things at once, so you can tap multiple targets. But there's one problem, and it's tough to tell on the video because, as you know, the man won't let us play sound from these games. But if you did hear sound from it, you would notice immediately that it clips really badly. They've cranked up the audio for each individual gunshot, and that means that playing multiple shots at the same time is sure to clip. This is tough, especially if you're just trying to crank out an Android game quickly. You're probably using Soundpool. That would be my choice for this type of game.
Sure, yeah.
The problem is you've got to do one of two things. You either have to make sure that your volumes are normalized so that none of your sounds are going to clip even if you play 5 or 6 over the top of each other, or you need to go the extra mile and add some effects. I mean, the thing that you need for this, and this is what we use in broadcasting, it's what we use in music, it's what programs use, is something called a compressor limiter. It's a very, very easy thing to make mathematically. I actually wrote an article in Game Programming Gems 8, I think, on the compressor limiter that I wrote for Halo 3. We actually cranked that thing and used it for a radio effect. But what you want to do is get it so the high parts of the sound just kind of roll off, so that you don't ever blow your eardrums out, or in this case, blow the speakers because you're clipping so hard.
Yeah, and I think it's you can control attenuation in Soundpool, so that's and that's the other way to do it is you can given the fact that you have a maximum of sounds you're going to be playing at once. It's a little tricky because Soundpool actually doesn't give you any knowledge that your sound is really playing, and necessarily. So it is a little bit tricky. I mean, I think that the easier thing to do is to try to lower the sound volume a little, and/or you could go the extra mile and actually write your own mixer with effects processor built into it.
But at the very least, do what we used to do when we didn't have good computers to play games on, and write yourself a fake compressor. So basically, what you're trying to do is, based on how many sounds you've played within a certain period of time, just drop the volume down. You drop it down a certain amount for each sound, and then you let it come back up slowly. Just write a little windowed average engine to do that. So, but the main thing is, make sure, especially if you're going to be playing a lot of sounds, this would have been very easy to test, and it's surprising to me that the developer let it ship in this state.
Well, again, this game is really cool. It's clearly one guy, and clearly, that was not his priority. Was sound effects.
That's true.
But the game is really fun, and again, there's just a lot of UI stuff here. It's hard to tell how much of this is tablet specific since I only got to play this on a tablet. One of the things that's it's interesting is there's actually sort of a wizard that goes on as you're going through the levels, and it is a little bit jarring given the kind of composition of different elements that we see here on the screen at once. We have some Android elements, some bitmaps, some sort of bitmap creations of similar Android elements. And it does feel like there's at this point it would make sense to actually bring in a designer and have them take a look at all of these intro screens, because the game itself is really, really fun, and you don't want someone to go through at the first screen of the game and be, wow, this feels really amateurish, we should, I'm not interested.
Well, you just have to ask yourself a question. Are you selling to the public, or are you selling to your friends and family? Because your mom doesn't really care, right? But anyone who doesn't know you, that, well, yeah, your mom, sure, but we all know.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
The problem is anyone that just downloads this game, and remember, they probably downloaded several games. They're probably looking for a good game. They're probably going to give you a few seconds to prove yourself. And unless they're really looking for this specific game, they're probably going to be a little turned off by the presentation, the production values, especially when there's a lot of games out there that are just as free as this one and are just as fun as this one that have better production values.
Yeah, another minor thing, I would love to see, the Hollow theme at least turned on. It's good. You actually are don't have the compatibility zoom and all that kind of stuff on there. But it's always kind of sad when you're on a tablet these days and you're seeing all of this, gingerbread theme, sitting on there. So
that's true.
That's it. It's just and that's so easy to do just by going in and actually making sure you're targeting the most recent API levels and just triggering the Hollow theme. For in this case, you'd want dark. Which is a default, I believe. But that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go into kind of great detail here, but
no, it's a fun game. I mean,
it really was.
The mechanics. I don't know why there aren't more games like this. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and move on.
Before you do, YouTube would like to know what you guys thought of the music for that game.
Well, the truth is that we played it with the sound off, except for the wait. No, that makes no sense. We didn't play with the sound off. We played it with the. I don't know. The guns were clipping really hard, so I don't remember music.
Yeah, there was music.
Was there music?
I assume there was.
Okay.
Look at this. I love this just beautiful demonstration of exactly where me and Dan are at 12 p.m.
Yeah, exactly.
By 2, we're rolling.
That's right.
Right now, though, we're like, music. Yeah. All right. Come on. Head in the game, dude. Head in the game.
All right. So we're gonna go next to Slice Ween.
Slice Ween. All
right. I'm gonna
just just a little early for Halloween.
It is just a little early, but
that's right. It's almost October.
This game actually has amazing production values on here on the tablet.
It is pretty good, yeah. It's a nice game. I don't know. This is one of those games that I think of as being kind of the Adobe Illustrator game where the graphics. It's like obviously somebody made the graphics that has real talent. They got a graphic designer, but then they made like one frame. Yes, there's no actual animation. There's just a bunch of outline transformations.
Yes, yeah. Well, they're clearly, and this is certainly if you have the choice between having really, really awesome, a single really awesome frame and none of it, this is the way to go.
Absolutely, that's true.
But it is what differentiates it from some of the other physics games out there that have been really, really successful.
Right.
Right now the bar is pretty high in physics games. People have a lot of choices. There's been a lot of really successful games, and so again, great presentation, but the bar has to be upped here.
Yeah, and as far as upping the bar, well, you can see with the gameplay, I didn't feel like it had a significant amount to offer. I mean, I feel this is exactly like Heaven and Hell. Wow, really?
What? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so basically the idea is you're going to slice through one or more pieces of, wood, I guess, and that's going to make your bat roll around until he falls into the haunted house. Right.
And you have to both get the bat into the haunted house, and you're going to collect as many pumpkins as possible in this case.
Right. And like I was saying, this we saw a game last year. It was called Heaven and Hell, right? Or Angels and Demons,
something like that.
Something like that. One of those Dan Brown type titles. And it was exactly this game, but it had like an extra twist because there were angels that behaved the way that Bat does, and then there were demons that did something completely different that escapes me at the moment. So nothing wrong with the gameplay. I mean, it's certainly fun. It just doesn't really bring anything new, and as you can see, the amount of animation is really low. So you're not really tempted to identify with this bat or fall in love with the bat or think of him the way that you would, let's say,
Well, again, a lot of times these games have actually gone through a whole bunch of phases of monetization with characters, and part of the reason that they monetize well with characters is people actually connect with those characters, and a lot of people identify with those characters. Strangely enough, even if what you're doing is fleeing those characters into a brick wall, you're still somehow identifying those characters. And
Absolutely.
And so that's always nice too. And yeah, I think that is kind of what the game is missing, is animation. But because the game is otherwise quite good, this is another thing. This dialogue is cool. One, I'd love to see it be a hollow dialogue, and two, I'd love to see it actually, in this case, be a themed dialogue. It makes sense to have these things kind of themed around the game, especially with all the other presentations.
We were just talking, Rachel and I were just talking about this last hour in the app review, that there are some apps where you can tell that they had a great designer, and then you can also tell that they ran out of time before they shipped, and you can just map out exactly where they ran out of time. Now, in this case, I'm not sure if it's running out of time or just not caring about it. So obviously, the main screens all look great. So why that random dialogue popping up that just looks ugly? I don't know. I can't explain that.
Oh, that was bad. Totally.
Yes, it was. You suck at this game.
I totally do.
So, fun game. Could be better. I think that there's other games out there that are equally good and maybe more interesting.
But it's also interesting to get a Halloween themed game at this time of year. But I think it's one of those things. The team is always looking for interesting stuff around Halloween. I think that might resonate with the team. You never know in terms of when they're looking at stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if Google Play featured this game. That's true, because there's certainly nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're going to ask me, are you going to spend your hard-earned dollars on this? Well, no, but I guess all I'm really spending is my hard-earned time. Still no. But I could see that some people would. Now, speaking of featuring it, they do have a reasonably good feature graphic in the sense that it's legible. When you make that thing very, very small, you will still be able to read the word Sliceween. It's a little crowded, honestly. Got the moon, you got the haunted house, got the that haunted house stuff isn't really going to come through. Those pumpkins in the bottom why are they even there? This is one of those things where,
in terms of the feature, I think that you're certainly going to see the bigger pumpkin on the bottom, and it's okay. I think that bats are just going to look like noise at the top. I agree, but it looks good.
Well, and you're going to have a really hard time seeing that that's even a bat, because if you look at the contrast between the black bat wings and the red sky, it's a
little bit too low. Yeah, you definitely go. If you look at the kind of the bottom of the red sky that you have here in the game, you could switch back to the tablet for a second. Actually, can we? That's a good question. No.
Oh no, I can though.
You can, yeah. So if you look, you see there's this bright orange sky at the bottom. That actually would be kind of a better color to be against the back of the bat.
Yeah, it's tough.
Feature graphic.
The main thing is that when you're selling this game to people, you first need to sell it to our merchandising team, and that's very, very important. Because if they see something that they're like, well, if we put this in the store window, it's not going to sell, then they're going to back off. And this is, there's nothing exactly wrong with it, but it could use a once-over by someone who knows how to put together an ad as opposed to just like a collage of game elements. Okay, so I think that's about it for Sliceween right now. We can always revisit it later if we don't run out of time.
That's right. All right.
So I think we're going to look at Candy Racer next. Now, Candy Racer is a much better example of a feature graphic in some ways, and maybe not quite as good in other ways. It's got one clean graphic that makes the game look fun, arguably more fun than it actually is. The Candy Racer logo is beautiful and big. It needs to be a little bit bigger. Yeah,
it could be a little bit bigger, and and it's great having the developers' names there, but they're not going to read it all. But that might be okay if they don't read it all on the phone. I mean,
that's not a huge deal. I mean, it's not important information in the sense that it would be a make or break for your buy decision.
They're not able to read free. If you do want to, that's probably the biggest thing. If you do want free to be an important element when when it gets featured on the phone, then that would definitely be something you'd want to highlight a little bit more, or just get rid of and make it it'll be very clear to users that it's free. It's a good question, because making it clear to users that it's free probably is going to improve the chance that they actually click on it. But I don't
That's
know.
quite true. Although, in general, we do tend to feature the paid version anyway. But yeah. So Candy Racer is nothing wrong with this game. It's a good game. Like I said, the title screen is great. I can't say enough about this. You know, you can see that someone took a long time just thinking, what is fun about this game? What is the experience that I want people to think they're having with this game?
And you know what, actually, the one thing I really love the trail that's actually shown behind the car, and I kind of wish that was a game element. Like as you started going fast, if you could see like a little trail shoot out behind the car.
That would be, well, you kind of do. I mean, there's a little particle system there.
There
it's
is.
just not. Whoa.
I don't know, how do I do? Oh, it's right. I've got. I think I maybe have to stop tapping on it.
You have to. You can't tap when you're going uphill.
Right.
Little tip from producer Alex, who's a pro at Candy Racer.
They technically tell you this in the little splash screen that shows up at the beginning of the level, but I saw the thing that said tap to go fast and skipped right past it.
It's always a danger.
Yeah, and it actually took me 3 or 4 tries on the second level to figure out why I couldn't execute the loop perfectly. Because I was pressing down when it was going up, and then the car would just flop over.
Yep, that's exactly what it does, and I still ran out of time. So the game is, you've got a pretty good level of challenge to it, and the presentation is good. I mean, this is actually an example of really doing a lot of things right. It does play audio on the lock screen, which is a little unfortunate. So definitely something to look at. That's really, really easy to fix by looking at whether or not your window is currently active.
The other thing that I just want to mention is when you're designing games for a mobile environment, you have to remember that you'll very frequently get played in environments that are not at all optimal. And this game in particular suffers from that because some of its screens have extremely low contrast. You can see this on this screen with all of the white lettering. It's very, very difficult to read if you're at all in sunlight or if you have poor lighting conditions at all. Maybe think about doing a little bit more contrast on those.
Yeah, just if the drop shadow was maybe a little bit stronger, it'd be a little easier to read. There's also a little bit of resolution going on here too at the screen. It's just a tiny bit too low for this device, and it's noticeable. Another thing that we're seeing here, which is interesting, is I don't know if we unplug it whether we see that, but there is actually letterboxing on the right hand side of the screen here, which is kind of unfortunate because I don't really see any reason why that needs to be there.
No, it's not the kind of game that needs to be letterboxed at all.
Yeah, and so I was sort of surprised. Let me unplug the HDMI so we could just. We're going to lose the feed here. I just want to see when we unplug it. Yeah, it's still somewhat letterbox. It's just less letterbox.
Yeah, you don't get more letterbox. Yeah.
Which is what I thought. So.
Yeah, this is one of those things that's really frustrating because when you see a game like this, you know that what happened is they authored it at some random resolution that's probably from a different platform.
No, this was an and engine game.
It's an and engine game.
Yeah, it's just not taking
well,
into
in that
account.
case, there is no excuse whatsoever.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I say.
Now, I want to talk about gameplay for just a second and sort of revisit what you were saying about the trail, right? So, I'm thinking to myself, why is it that Alex, Dan, and I all had exactly the same experience, which is we were like pushing on that thing to try and get it up the hill. And I think a lot of it is because all of the feedback is when you tap on this thing, sparks shoot out its hind end, and to me that says go faster. Other games have dealt with this differently. Like we looked at the Monster Truck game last week, and its controls were more centered around tilting forward and back, and maybe having the car tilt forward and back or something would make more sense. Like, if I'm tilting into the hill, it's going to be slower. I don't know.
I think we were all subscribing to the mental model of pushing down implies pushing down on gas.
Right.
And what it actually was pushing down exerts some sort of force of gravity on the car. You can especially tell if the car's in midair and you push down on the screen and the car starts dropping even though it's in midair. So it's some sort of gravitational constant thing, which is not especially intuitive.
Right.
And it's for an interesting gameplay mechanic once you understand it.
See, that's the thing. I think the mechanic is fine. I think the issue is, since it is non-intuitive, you have to give your players a little bit more in the way of hints or explanations. Maybe if it's a gravitational constant, why not put a rocket on the car pointing into the air and fire that thing every time you push down? I mean, something that will make it obvious that I'm getting a G-force out of this thing rather than a rotational force on the wheels.
Yeah, I think even some indicator would be really useful too, to kind of make it clear that what you're doing is actually manipulating gravity, because that is pretty close, the closest thing I can see.
Well,
what
and
doing.
Especially when you think about other games of this type, for instance, one of the things that you want to do in a lot of games is let off the gas if you find yourself catching air off a hill. In this game, it's exactly the opposite. If you're catching air off a hill, you want to tap so you can fall back down to the hill and catch those stars. So it is a good mechanic. Mm-hmm. It is fun. It's a fun game.
Absolutely.
But it's frustrating to learn, and I think it could be less frustrating if there were a little bit more acknowledgement that this is a non-intuitive mechanic.
Absolutely.
Something in there to give you intuition about what's going on.
Absolutely. And the game is very hard. I will definitely say that. Even just making progress to the levels is actually somewhat challenging. I would probably take a slight tone down of the challenge to get through the level and really focus people on getting all of the stars,
right?
And getting the candies, because that I think that's actually one of the secrets to Angry Birds' success, is that it's actually relatively easy to make it through a lot of the levels. You don't get stuck very often, but then there is that extra challenge for the more hardcore gamer of actually going through and trying to gold star every level.
I didn't notice this the first time through, but the stars aren't actually points, they're time. So you get a second for every star you get, which makes for an interesting mechanic because you're scored on how much time you have when you get to the end of the level.
Right.
Which you then, as the player, have to balance between how fast you shoot through and how much care you take in dropping down to collect the stars, versus just catching air and trying to, skip a dip and nail entirely.
Well, exactly. I think what Dan's saying is, that's fine. It's a good mechanic. But there's more replay. People will play a level more often to 3-star it than they will to pass it. If they just get stuck and can't pass the level, then they may stop playing the game altogether. But if they can't 3-star the level, hey, I've had some levels where I go back 20, 30 times until I've gotten all the score I could possibly get.
Yeah. There is bronze, silver, and gold for the level, depending on how much time you have left.
Right, it's just that the bronze level is actually, I think it could be a little easier to get to the bronze level.
Okay.
That would be my feedback.
Yeah, my advice would be, the bronze or whatever, there's some level where it's like, yay, you got to the end finally, and that, give people a way to get to the next level without actually getting to the targets that you've set for bronze, silver, and gold.
All right, so let's go to the next game, which is GSN Casino.
Absolutely. So GSN Casino is a slot machine game. We love slot machine games. We cannot get enough of them.
Yeah. It's the truth is that slot machines are very, very easy games to write, basic versions of, and they're hard games to actually balance well.
That's right. They're also very, very popular. They don't really hit our demographic.
Yeah, our meaning Ian and my demographic, not our meaning Google Play's.
Yeah,
Google
right. No, Google Play.
Them.
Yeah. No, it's just tough because there isn't anyone that works at Google that likes slot machine games. I don't know why.
I'm sure there's someone who works here, but no one that I know.
Maybe because we're not retired.
That's possible. And it is more than just a slot machine game. Let's be fair. There's there's video bingo and video poker as well, but it's basically a video casino simulation.
See, this I don't understand. Is this under what circumstances would you play this? Because I can see going to Vegas and dropping a little bit on the slots, but when you're doing that, you at least get free drinks, right?
Well, we're getting free drinks for playing the game right now.
That's true.
So you're saying we should hook this up to a keg droid?
Yeah, exactly. That would make it much better.
Yeah.
So, in any event, I'm getting...
Yeah, so at least you've got some variety, right? Yeah, and that's actually been my complaint about a lot of slots games is it feels like a slots game will build an engine and then just reskin it over and over and over again. Whereas in a real casino, of course, you get some of that. Certainly, there's a ton of slot machines that are just reskins of each other. But the games that are actually making money are the ones that have some sort of hook to them that's different from other slot games. And they do try to at least design things differently. If it's the exact same, like 21-line combo, lines going everywhere, you can play coins in different ways, but the patterns are all exactly the same, like this, right? I've seen a lot of games where all they will do is take something like this and change out the background art and call it a new game, and that's no fun at all.
Yeah, I think for slot machines, I think what I really want to see is someone taking it to the next level, doing things you can't do in Vegas, or the people won't do in Vegas, for various reasons, and actually going, kind of
like
going,
holding up the casino and stealing things.
Well, that would be entertaining. Actually, I wouldn't mind a whole 3D FPS, built into the casino game. But more than in terms of like these bonuses, like you can really spend time on them because this isn't just a game where you're trying to steal as much money from people as possible. This is a game where you're actually trying to entertain at the same time.
Right.
So you can really take things to the next level. You don't have to worry, well, the bonus round takes 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds where the machine is in use. You can say, it actually takes 3 minutes to get through the bonus round, and you do a lot of things, and it's interesting. You're also not as concerned about payouts. In a casino, in these games, you're usually paying out at like 95%. So you're because you want people to continue participating, playing, buying in occasionally, but feeling like they're getting value by comparison. Because there is no way to win.
You could pay out at 110% if you wanted to.
You could, but then you might have no one. Then you would most likely not have anyone buying anything unless you're monetizing ads only. So most of the time, these are monetizing the same way casinos do, in the sense that you are, ultimately buying tokens here. Eventually, I will run out of
buying
money
tokens and running out of them. Yeah.
So. But it's a decent game. I'd like to see that.
This is cool. I mean, and actually, this game is a really, really good example of what I'm talking about, which is, you've got like the cannon barrage that comes up, and all these little things that make this feel like a different game than the next game or the game after that. It's not just a bunch of different artwork that you pulled off of like Shutterstock.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say about this is that the resolution is good, but it's still noticeably blurry on this tablet, especially the text. And my general feeling is actually the backgrounds here are fine, but I would when you see like Jolly Roger and Cannon Barrage, you can really, really see some filtering going on there, and it just makes your eyes try to focus on it. There's also kind of weird because it's a graphic, but the kerning on Roger just kind of irks me when I look at it. It's like the R looks like it's just several pixels farther away than the rest of the characters. And if you're going to go through and you're going to do artwork for your text, it's just make it look really good. Because right now it looks like a combination of blurring and a little bit,
You're such a font geek.
I am such a font geek. It's true.
But yeah, it is just a darn shame to have, a bad resolution on a tablet like this, because let's face it, tablet games are, games on tablets are far more popular than games on phones, and this Asus Transformer Prime is now the low end of tablet resolution. There's very few tablets that have a lower resolution than this. Mm-hmm. So if you can't do a 720p set of artwork, you may just want to skip tablets altogether.
I actually, it's funny because it depends on the game. Like this game actually looks much better, and again, it's making use of more. It's making use of more fonts, and it doesn't have text that's rendered outside of fonts, other than I think this gem bonus one over here. And it makes a really big difference. The game feels much more like it's actually designed for this resolution. So whenever possible, use outline fonts. I think that's just basically become the kind of gold standard here. So it looks like, again, what I'm excited about, which I haven't gotten to in a lot of these games, is actually getting to the bonus round. See, I have to disagree with you. I think those outline fonts over the top of those oysters look terrible. I think that they're legible for some definition of legible, but they just look pasted on. I mean, they don't look like they're part of the artwork. Oh no, I know that. I didn't say the art design is actually good for that. I mean, that's you still have to design around the fact you have outline fonts there.
Right.
I think I would totally agree with you. In that sense, but at least I'm not squinting trying to see them, and my eyes are not drawn to them trying to focus on them, which is really the key.
What what I've seen done that would actually be really effective in a game like this is do all of your graphics in something like SVG. There's some good free SVG renders that work great on Android. You remember Bouncy Mouse did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's actually the code that was used inside of Androidify is actually available in open source, and it's a really nice SVG to Android canvas renderer, essentially.
Yeah, so you can take your Illustrator files or whatever and import them, instead of rasterizing them and importing them as bitmaps, you import them as SVGs, which is usually a much smaller format and is going to render beautifully at almost any resolution. And especially as screens get denser, that becomes very, very important.
Yeah, I know. It's a great way of keeping the game size small. You have to be careful, obviously, because it's very, very easy to create really, really large SVG files. Too, if you use certain effects, like as you start using lots of gradients, you're like, no, don't put the gradients in your SVG files. Actually, render those separately, because it's a lot of SVG exporters will just throw in tons and tons and tons of geometry into the SVGs.
Well, like everything else, there's no magic bullet, but I think this could really benefit from being vectorized, especially since it's the sort of thing you draw it once and then you're done. You could rasterize for this particular resolution and then cache it if you wanted to. So it's not like you're spending a huge amount of CPU to make it look nice.
Now, other things that are interesting about this, it actually has the swipe mechanic there, which is kind of nice, very obvious.
Yeah, I like these screens. They look good. They're they're big, but as I get older and frailer, I don't mind that much.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the target audience we're talking about here. It's a somewhat older audience. We find that younger people tend to play these slots less, and very, very much like in the casinos, it is an older audience. So it makes sense to make sure everything's really, really legible, very, very much in your face.
Big touch targets.
Big touch targets. Yeah, this is a nice design.
Also, this is a good. We talk a lot with Android about poor use of gradients. This is a good use of gradients. These buttons look good. They don't look bubbly. They don't look like you're overusing the gradient effect. You just got a slight little effect on those so that they don't look completely flat, and I think that's appropriate to the game's style.
Yeah, and it really does feel like if you've been to Vegas and seen the way the casinos market these games, it does really feel like there's a lot of commonality between this and the way the casinos are actually marketing the games in Vegas. So, I say this is a really nice job. I see there's no reason, to be honest, why they wouldn't feature this other than there's so many games like it and the competition is fierce. If you're going to make a slots game, be prepared to really have to spend to drive people to it, because there's just so much competition in this area. There are so many good games.
Yeah, well, and of course you're competing with some really, really large social network players.
Absolutely, big contender, including GSN. GSN is not a small player either. So let's this is, if you're in this space, and I by all means, if you're interested in making slot games, make awesome slot games, because it's and be prepared to not just make an awesome slot game, but be prepared to spend a lot of money to drive people to it, because it's this is one of those times where the game monetization model is really straightforward, and there's a lot of people here who would love to be getting your money. And
these games are not hard to program.
Yes,
they need a lot of art, but
and design. There's a lot of design that goes into this to make it so that it does do all those things. And my hat's off to those people, but it's not a technical issue.
Yeah, well, one of these days when I get sick of being a good person, I'm totally going to go to Vegas and write slot machine code. I hear you can make a ton of money that way. So let's
never going to happen.
I guess friends down there, and they are good people. Actually, they're really good people.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
some of them are. The Dark Nebula is probably the most interesting game. I'm glad we saved it for last. It's a really interesting metric. And now this is one of those things. Honestly, I'm always sad when I see this. Over 6 million downloads on iOS, and it's got like 5,000 downloads on Android. And why is that, Dan?
I assume that it's because it just hasn't gotten in front of a lot of people. That's ultimately that's.
Well, I'm going to say that's true, but also, this is really telling too. Is the first thing you see on this page is Dark Nebula is finally available on Android.
Well, that's also true. Yeah, when you bring out a game and you generate a lot of excitement, on another platform, and then a year later, 2 years later, you drag the game over to Android. One is you've kind of reduced the ability to get any press out of kind of the general press. And if the game is really big on iOS, you might end up getting some traction that way. But usually it's actually sort of all right, well, it's here finally, great, and it's been eclipsed by a bunch of other game designs.
Right, it's been eclipsed. Usually your marketing dollars are gone, etc. Now, as far as their feature graphic, though, their icon says a lot about what the game is like, and except for the stupid rounded corners, which totally don't need to be there,
Yep.
I like it. Their feature graphic is clean and legible, but it tells me nothing beyond the name of the game.
I thought it was a space exploration.
Right.
game
I mean,
when
you
saw
hear
their-
Dark Nebula, and you're like, oh, I bet there's going to be like some,
I wanted
a spaceship with some planets and stuff, right?
And I wanted like exploration and
exactly. I mean,
that is not the game.
Basically, if you took this to a design committee made up of like art school seniors and said, hey, give me a design for an ad for something called Dark Nebula, and they'd be like, what, is it a game? Is it a vodka?
We're not going to tell you anything about it.
Right, just something Dark Nebula.
Dark Nebula.
This is what they would come up with.
Yeah, totally.
So I think you can do better.
I think it'd be a little less blurry, though, to be honest. If art students.
Well, you never know because sometimes art students get artsy. But the point
That's
is,
true. No,
it has nothing to do with the actual game, which is more of a combination of pinball and labyrinth. It's you better take that out. Actually, I don't know. Can you play the game with that? It's a tilt control game.
I actually played it sideways last time I played it, so we'll see whether I can actually play it successfully.
Dan will do anything to avoid undocking the keyboard of his Asus Transformer Prime.
It's true, actually.
I'm not even sure why. Why does he feel this way? What deep-seated need does this satisfy?
That's a very good question. I think we'll get to that in a future episode.
Excellent.
So one thing, you do have to hold it in the correct orientation when you start, because that's when it calibrates itself.
Oh yeah, if you don't get calibrated, you're screwed.
Yeah, so that's what
And
happened
really,
last
that's how
time.
you calibrated? You like that calibration?
I think actually it's one of those things where it's probably better to tell you that, by the way, really make sure to hold it in the right orientation now, otherwise you are going to find that it's not going to be calibrated.
This is one of those things where a little bit of AI might go a long way, just trying to understand exactly what the player's trying to do. Because, in general, the range of a tilt sensor that's useful for gameplay is going to be much smaller than the actual range of the sensor. Mm-hmm. So if you start seeing that the user is going off one side or the other, what a really good game will do is just sort of adjust it so that they can.
So I just crashed the game like
you
twice.
kind of calibrate as you're going.
I think it's funny. I never actually tried playing this game with the HDMI in, and I think it's not real happy about the kind of jerky resizing that happens when you actually have the HDMI plugging
and
in
you're
and out.
accidentally taking it out. Do you want to put it on my Nexus 7 and put the
we might want to actually try
on
the camera. Let's try this one more time to see if I can actually get through. So one thing that's really great about this game is actually the accelerometer controls are really precise. They do what you want it to do. Like honestly, it actually feels really, really good. And that's, I think, the most important thing in this kind of a game is if you're going to use accelerometer controls. And, I am not always a fan of accelerometer controls. I'd be the first one to say that it has actually messed up quite a lot of really good games. But in this game, the game is entirely designed around it, which is why it works.
Yeah, if you're using the new APIs that we shipped in, what was it, ICS, then you can get really, really incredibly good accelerometer. If you don't use the new APIs, or if you're on an older device, then the accelerometer is a little bit flaky.
Now, one of the things I love about the gameplay in this is that you actually have to, as you see, go and in order to open doors, you actually have to go over certain areas, and it gives your character this kind of red or green force field. So I've got this red force field, and now that red force field allows me to get through that wall, etc. and so forth. So there's a lot of really good elements here in the gameplay that I really enjoyed.
It is cool. I mean, it feels. Can you fall off the edge there, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of got that Marble Madness thing going on.
Yeah. No. It's a really nice design for an accelerometer-based game. I love to see people who are you're doing an accelerometer-based game actually going and saying, no, we're going to design around this input method and really try to do something cool. That's always better than kind of throw it into an existing game design. So thumbs up to the designers. Oh yeah, look at that! My shield is down. I'm about to die.
But you're right. It is a fun game. There's a few of the sprites seem a little low res, but that could just be the angle that I'm holding.
No, it's definitely got some minor resolution issues. It looks like it's one resolution step below what we have here on the Nexus 7 or Transformer Prime.
We have a YouTube question.
Let's see.
You have been dedicated to reading YouTube questions like a good producer, right, Alex?
There haven't been any comments in the past several minutes.
Really?
So I think our time switch has injured our viewership, or people are just quiet today.
It's possible.
The last actual question was about the music from the Agent Shooter game.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. The only problem I have with the UI for this game, for the tilting thing, I think in general the mechanic works really well. The only problem I have with it is you get to a point where in order to go forward, you're tilting the screen away from you, and that makes actually seeing what you're doing difficult. So what you're doing is, like, if it's like this, you end up going like this, and you almost have to sort of lean over and peer over at what you're doing.
I noticed that, and despite what Dan was saying about calibration, if I hold it like this while the level's starting, it still wants to lie flat while I'm playing it. Right. That's not cool, guys. Yeah, totally not cool.
If there was just a way to have it calibrate for holding it in front of you at like a 45-degree angle or something like that, so you tilt a little bit and you can still see perfectly what's going on.
Or if I had a specially built table with like Leonardo da Vinci pulleys and stuff coming out.
That would be so cool. I would love to see.
Pulling on ropes and stuff.
I want to see like the labyrinth peripheral for this guy. That would be awesome.
Right? But as it stands, control is good, but could be a lot better if you would just let it.
So here's how you actually do it. There's actually in the game. There's actually a calibrate. You can calibrate them here, and you can actually calibrate them during the game. So this is something I hadn't noticed because it's kind of hidden in the. But if you can actually recalibrate the game by pressing the screen with two fingers. So there we are. Let's calibrate it here. Let's see how much more playable it is. So again, it may just be a question of just being able to find this because obviously none of us found it.
Wow, that's interesting because it does work a lot better, but it's also a lot more jerky for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, well,
okay. Well,
that does help, though.
It's good that it's possible to recalibrate, but I would seriously consider just switching your default over to someone holding it in front of you either vertically or 45 degrees.
Yeah. Well, it is tricky. Like, you don't, honestly, because of the design of the game, if you calibrate it too far up, it also becomes really hard to play.
Well, so since it's obviously very quick to calibrate it, what I don't understand is why wouldn't I just calibrate it every time I start? Right, so give it a little countdown. You got 3 seconds, and then you're going to go. And the average player is going to put it into the position where they don't want it to move. And the last thing you want to do is have your ball start to move when you start. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, this accelerometer is not nearly as. Oh my goodness, it's almost unplayable when I calibrate it to a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, it is. It really.
But I don't understand why.
I'm not sure either. It's
that would be really interesting to find out.
So, in any case, we really like Dark Nebula. I think it's a game that we all enjoyed playing, and I think it's a little hard to play when you have it plugged into HDMI and you're trying desperately to keep the HDMI from getting pulled out. So if you have that problem, you might want to steer clear of this one. But other than that. But it's certainly a really thoroughly well-constructed game, and I honestly, I'm looking forward to going through and getting higher and higher in level in the game. It is a really fun game. Absolutely. Love it. Well, I bought this game, so personally. So nice. Yeah. Isn't that because we made you? It's true, but I did. So nice. All right. Well. All right. Red Hook ESB. 5 great games. And we are out of here. So thanks a lot for watching the Friday review. Remember that next week we will once again have an open topic. So go ahead and nominate whatever you want. Just please
put a link to it. I'm talking to you, Dark Nebula guy, and give us your info. So if we get around to it and we're not too drunk and we're feeling good that day, we'll try and invite you onto a G Plus hangout at some point.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have developers when they come online and we can talk to them about the games and kind of get an idea of why certain design decisions were made. So it's always great if you're available at this time, which is now 12 noon PST, to actually go and join us live on the show.
So we're going to go ahead and keep it at noon PST for a week. If it looks like nobody watches at that time, we might switch. It's cool. Let us know. Our only ask is that it needs to be some point within shouting distance of working hours for us, and preferably within drinking hours. So nothing before 9 a.m.
Yeah, 9 in the morning is kind of the cutoff. I refuse to drink before 9. So
right, because at 9 we've only just stopped drinking. You don't want to start again.
So have a great weekend, everyone, and definitely continue to vote on the moderator page and nominate your games and your favorite games, and let's see some great stuff for next week. Actually, it was a really fun week. I thought there was a lot of really great
there's some good stuff. I think the quality of submissions has really gone up. So we appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Happy Android, play us out.